Today we're continuing on the decking out of the subfloor for to put the shell back on top of. So what we've got is been working for the last few days on this. Already got about half of the deck with this 3/4 plywood underneath, reflective bubble wrap, followed by 2x4, followed by steel frame, and underneath the 2x4 there is the corrugated plastic, which is kind of a splash shield underbelly. Although there's really no crawl space in there, it's really to protect the underside of the plywood. So we've got those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers if you count the steel frame underneath, and I'm going to the back and kind of decking it out, continuing the process, and I'll show you that in a second. And so I left my drill gun at home because I had to. My third daughter asked me to unscrew a shelf from the wall, and I used hex screws to get it in. I needed my drill gun to get it out, my screw gun to get it out. I left it home. That's okay because there's plenty of prep work I can do today without laying more. 3/4 inch, I can cut everything, put it all in place. I got to seal the underbelly coating too, and there might be a couple welds I need to strengthen up. I like welding, and so do work on that today, and so I'll show you that process. You can see starting from the front, got it decked out, going all the way back. To where I'm at here. I'm gonna leave the space for wheel wells open, and then I will do the space directly behind the wheel wells over the gas tank. I'm putting in an access compartment over the gas tank. I'll show you that here. So here is the gas tank right there, and the fuel pump. You can't really see it, but it's in the gas tank there. So in the center, if you those two steel bars I put in right here and there, I'm going to make a little access area to get into the fuel pump if you ever need to change it, so you won't have to drop the fuel tank from the outside, because it'd be miserable with the leveling jacks. You might have to remove all kinds of stuff to get that fuel tank off. So rather than have to remove the fuel tank, if the fuel pump ever goes bad, you'll be able to exit to that floor. So that's the plan. So that complicates a little, but not much. Let's use the router and put the slots. You see I've gotten my T angles that go up over here, you can probably see. And so I need to cut out from the 2x4 underneath. This is all pressure treated wood, by the way. All pressure treated wood. We can call this video prepping and laying subfloor. Here I'm using the router to cut out slots in the pressure-treated 2x4s that will allow the pressure-treated 2x4s to fit snugly over the steel L angles that I used for structural stringers across the outrigger. I'm pre-cutting all the 2x4s that I'm going to need as the support frame between the chassis steel frame and the 3/4 inch plywood subfloor. The 3/4 inch plywood subfloor, pressure treated, is going to go above this. After I get all these pieces cut, I will still need to add the corrugated plastic sheet under it all, and also the reflective bubble layer underneath the 3/4 inch plywood. This is the next day. I'm installing the first corrugated black plastic sheet directly above the chassis, the metal chassis, and the 2x4s are going to go above this, then the reflective bubble wrap, and finally the 3/4 inch plywood on top. Here I'm notching out the corrugated plastic with a construction knife for the place where the grade 8 bolt heads are coming through the frame. These grade 8 bolts are used to tie the outriggers to and the structural stringers to the frame. The corrugated plastic does not have to be completely waterproof, but it should keep most of the water off of the underside of the wood subfloor. And it should also keep out any types of bugs and things like that. To seal it, I tried a few different things. Here I'm using RV sealant adhesive, but I found that the black K&B vulcanizing sealant tends to work better. Adding the reflective bubble wrap to the underside of the plywood floor. I'm using Gorilla Adhesive Spray, which actually didn't work too well, but it worked okay. The pressure from the 2x4s will hold it all in place. I'll probably use a different adhesive next time. I don't have anything against Gorilla Adhesive Spray. It probably works well, but it doesn't work well for adhering reflective bubble to plywood. I think it's the best practice to keep all of the wood for your subfloor frame and for the subfloor, the 2x4s and the plywood, even though it's pressure treated, to keep it all above the black plastic corrugated sheet so as to protect it from the elements. I'm using a big hammer, which you have to have for these kind of jobs, and a wood block to push the plywood as far against the next sheet of plywood as possible, so as a minimum of space between the two. You want to have a very small seam between the two sheets of plywood on your deck. For this kind of job, you really need to have a big hammer. I use this almost every day. I really like this hammer. Good. Come here.
Hello.
Okay. So here's the pile.
Okay.
So
now we're gonna put it on the floor.
yeah, that's
Let's
right.
hope this goes that plan.
And we looked at many different sites. Some say to glue it, some say don't. Both said don't in the RV. So this is one.
Oh.
Look at this stuff. It's beautiful.
I didn't know it was pink.
So yeah, planks. What do you think?
It looks different than the one we.
You gotta be very careful not to break this kind of groove. See if there's this big groove here.
Oh, that's how you connect them.
Yeah, link it together. You want to keep it on the edge perfectly.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you got it. you get us a new box, Daddy? Thank you. Here's your old one.
But man, that's nice stuff. Nice stuff, right? It's got 3 layers. Because I'm thinking about putting it right underneath the, even underneath the walls, you know? Solid stuff. I like the fact that it's vinyl, right? It won't get wet or anything like that. It won't get, you know, too terribly